I mean, the historical reason we give Diwali is the coming back of Ram, obviously, after 14 years of exile. And it was a new moon night, like totally no moon at all. So, of course, the people of Ayodhya after 14 years, you can imagine how much they miss their Lord Ram, whom they love so much. And they all came out, but there was no light. I mean, it doesn't look nice, when the king is coming, there's no light. So everybody actually lit lamps in rows of lamps, and hence the word, as the Deepavali, which is of course a row of lights. That's historical reason. But the reason is, the thing is, why did everybody came out, and why did they light lamps for a king? I mean, quite often you don't see the subjects loving the king as much. They say, oh, okay, fine, he's come, but they were really eager. So you can imagine the love they had for the king. And why did they have so much love for the king? I mean, Jaybai explained it beautifully. I don't think I can add more than that. It's the idea of living, for principle of possessions. Just to add a bit more, if you look at the Ramayana stories, and they all repeat with such examples, like, when reminds you when Ram met Shabri. Shabri was so poor, and the way Ram honored her, I mean, this is the, king from the palace. The amount of dignity and respect, honor that he gave to Shabri just shows what kind of personality Ram was. Truly an ideal person, ideal human, because despite living at the highest level, he had absolutely no problem going into a hut and giving so much joy to somebody so poor. And it's even all the examples, with Hanuman, and it's really beautiful. I mean, it's amazing. We are lucky to have such, as Jaybai mentioned, such a great personality like Ram in our kind of Hinduism kind of faith. Absolutely amazing.
And I think you've covered it amazingly. I mean, one of the really sort of unique things, which doesn't seem to have really been picked up by any other kings that I know of, is this idea of not sort of, living for, as Dad was saying, this idea of property and possession, this accumulation of wealth, and that's really what all kings tend to do. Whereas Ram was not interested in all of that. He walked away from all of his luxuries, going into exile in the forest for 14 years. And actually what he was standing for is this idea that actually what Hinduism is all about is principles, standing up for principles. And that's the most important wealth for all of us, rather than all this materialistic wealth, which is temporary. This kind of idealistic wealth we have is really what's most important. And that's what we can really take away from the festival of Diwali, is shifting our emphasis. Yes, we do give gifts and, we enjoy nice food and all of that during Diwali, but we also have to remember the importance of non-materialistic living, this idea that, living for higher ideals, living for the spirit around you. He lived for others. His whole purpose in life was living for others, living for his kingdom, living for those around him. And that's what we can really learn from this festival, is this idea of spiritual living, multiplying yourself and seeing yourself in those around you. That's the true spirit of what Ram is all about.
It's a celebration of the personality of Ram and what he stands for, as Deva explained beautifully. But Diwali is celebrated over 7 days. It starts with this Ekadasi, and then we have Vak Baras, then Dhan Triyodasi, Kali Chaudas or Narak Chaturdasi, then Diwali Day, and then we have a New Year Day. Some people, there's a Vikram Samvat New Year's Day. Could you please elaborate more on these days, please, Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, each of these days really are sort of like a build up to Diwali, but also paying tribute to different deities within Hinduism. So, for example, Kali Chaudas is paying tribute to the mother goddess Kali. And, she's often sort of like, people are like, what kind of a goddess is this? But really is paying tribute to all aspects of divinity, because, creation as well as destruction are all part of the universe and the way things are. And we also pay tribute to Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, because within Hinduism we recognize the importance of earning wealth. It shouldn't be something to be shied away from, as long as it's done within reason and you're not going crazy and earning truckloads of money and not doing anything good with it. So wealth is very important. This idea of recognizing how, Kali, time is the all-destroyer. We also kind of have this opportunity to celebrate human relationships, because around the time of Diwali, we also have Bhai Beej as well, where we celebrate the relationship between a brother and a sister. So it's a wonderful time of year, because we are recognizing the sort of divinity in those around us. We are recognizing the divinity in the form of gods through Lakshmi and through even Saraswati, because we have Chopra Pujan as well, where, you know, business people, they sort of revere their books, their business books at this kind of time as well. So all this sort of gods and goddesses play a part at this wonderful time of year. And we celebrate the spirit around us, essentially, this idea of, you know, non-materialistic living, which is so important and at the heart of Diwali.
You know, the Diwali is such a special time, then why not bring all the other activities in as well, as Sita mentioned, and celebrate the mother goddess, you know, also the idea of Chopra Pujan, which is, I know they do it in the temple all the time. I've seen that. They get all, it's somewhere really got massive books. It just shows the amount of accounts there, and then they worship that. And it's a good thing, yes, to keep aware of that. Actually, even that is given to us by the goddess, by God. It's not really yours. It's a good reminder when you do this puja that, you know, it's not yours. So it's a nice thing as well. And as you mentioned, the Bhai Dooj as well, which happens for the bond with brother and sister. So it's all in all a wonderful celebration. I think one thing to keep in mind as well, that even the other kind of faiths, Indic faiths, also do celebrate Diwali in their own way. Like, you know, the Buddhists, I think they celebrate, some Buddhists, not all, celebrate the idea that when Emperor Ashoka converted to Buddhism, then Jainism have got a very special reason. They believe that's the day Mahavir actually achieved Nirvana. And so for that reason as well. And I think also the Sikhs celebrate the coming of one of the six gurus back from prison. So all in all the communities have got one way or the other linked to Diwali and celebrate Diwali. So wonderful celebration, yes.
Vijay Bhai, there is this idea of a New Year, Nutan Vars, starting of the Hindu New Year as per the Vikram Samvat calendar. Could you please tell more about that?
Okay. So the Vikram Samvat calendar is primarily from the northern part of India. They follow the Vikram Samvat calendar, and that is actually aligned in the way it's designed, aligned with the Diwali celebration. So after Diwali finishes, we start the Kartik month, first month. So India has got many calendars, not just but one. And it's a beautiful thing about India. And I think people tend to think that the Vikram Samvat is actually a lunar calendar. It's not really a lunar calendar. It's actually an astral calendar. It's based on the stars. So what happens by looking at the stars, because the moon is easy to visualize, you know, visually with your eye, they're based on moon cycles. But if you look at it very carefully, notice one thing: every 3 years, an extra month. Why do you have that extra month in the Vikram Samvat calendar? And same with the other Indian calendars, is to bring it in line again with the stars. And by bringing in line with the stars, we bring line with the sun. So they've noticed that the Diwali never moves in October, November. It never goes out of those 2 months. It's just floating there all the time, because it's designed in such a way that the calendar keepers of India are designed in such a way that the calendar is astral, based on the stars, which means based on the solar indirectly. At the same time, it's visually able to follow the calendar by looking at the moon. So you win in both directions. Very, very clever people. It is said that the city of Ujjain is very famous. They're the timekeepers of India. By the way, that's why most people say India's got half an hour, shift, because it's Ujjain, the line which goes to Ujjain city, is half an hour off the meridian. So there you go. Interesting stuff, yeah.
All the days of Diwali and on the days of Bhai Dooj, brothers will normally visit their sister's house, and they normally would have a meal at there. And this ensures that the brothers make sure their sisters are in good condition, they are well, and if they need help, then they can help out as well. And this way, the family ties are always, kept stronger, which is a wonderful thing. We take a next question, and that one very important thing in modern world is living for ideals. What we see in modern world is this materialistic living is at forefront. So how can this living for ideals help modern world when, especially, we have this global warming and this sort of issues?
Manish, by the rate at which human beings are consuming stuff, it is gone wild and it's gone beyond control. I mean, when we hear that there's millions of plastic bottles thrown away, food being thrown away in tons daily, because you got so much abundance, and the other thing is, which is really not good either, is a society or economy is driven in such a way that it actually kind of subconsciously encourages us to consume, billboards, TV ads. You go out, the smells you get from restaurants, you just pass by, oh, that pizza, smells so nice. Really good if I can put that down, and then you just wonder, how do you fight this material? Even computers, cars, every day you hear ads, coming to you. And so the mind is being conditioned. This is the kind of world we live in, conditioned to consume and buy things, right? And of course, when you buy it and you have it, as Sita mentioned, while the joy is very, very temporary and disappears afterwards, yes. But the thing is still drives us. And I think the thing is to realize who we are, look inwards. What is our essence? What is our nature? And try and look every so often, create some time for yourself, see who you truly are. Do you need this thing? Does it help you grow spiritually? Does it show your true nature? So that's the thing, because if you look at even Krishna I think it's mentioned in the chapter 3 as well. Desire and anger are the biggest thing that can take us from our spiritual nature. And even the Buddhism's whole foundation is on the idea of desires, right? Consuming. How do you conquer that? I think it's look inward and try and see what your true nature is. Once you realize actually you're a divine person, you need nothing. You're the master of everything despite having nothing, as Swami Vivekananda said. And I think you're the right kind of step. Sita Ben?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're so right. I mean, in terms of, we're just sort of being conditioned to always want material things. And I think it also stems from this idea that, if there's something material, that means, that's real and that's all that matters. But ultimately, what Hindu philosophy is all about is matter doesn't matter at the end of the day. Matter is itself an appearance. And, Dad has done so many talks on this idea that matter itself is not a real thing. And the world as we see it is not real. So what is the whole point in chasing after material things which are not really even actually real? We should chase after what the real thing is. And there's a real sort of stodginess in the world that we live, in the way that we think, the way that the scientific community think. This shift away from materialism has not happened yet, but hopefully it's on the cusp and it will hopefully happen in our lifetimes. We just have to hope, because once, we take this leap into this idea of, super consciousness and this idea that essentially everything is non-material, we can sort of shift our emphasis and move our life away from it being so materialistic. Where actually, I don't need a new fridge. I'm fine with the fridge I've got, or whatever. It's just that doesn't matter at the end of the day. As long as you've got all the sort of needs that you need to fulfill your life and fulfill the lives around you materially, you don't need to keep searching for more and more material gain. Focus on the higher, focus on the spiritual. And hopefully when the scientific community starts to accept these kinds of things, it will start becoming more widespread across humanity, that matter doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे पीड़ पराई जाने रे अभिमान न